The Vision is no more, right? Coming out of this week's edition of WWE Raw, where it was the fallout from WWE Crown Jewel on Saturday in Perth, and there was a number one contenders match, CM Punk versus LA Knight versus Jey Uso. Punk hit the GTS on Jey to become the number one contender to set up what seemed like was going to be a pretty obvious rematch with Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship. And it seemed like that was going to be our closing sequence on Raw, was Rollins standing over Punk, taunting him, and setting up the match, which could happen as soon as Saturday night's main event, coming up here in several weeks. But Triple H said, I'm not done cooking, because he decided they were going to go ahead and pull the turn here and have Bron Breakker spear Seth Rollins, Bronson Reed, hit a tsunami on Rollins, and then it was Breakker picking up the World Heavyweight title, Paul Heyman joining both men, although perhaps some out of fear after Breakker got in his face and basically demanded that he do that. But it was Heyman standing between Breakker and Reed and them standing over a fallen Seth Rollins. They have overthrown their leader. And many people are asking, why did the Vision turn on Seth Rollins? And some are also asking, is it as clear as it seems to be? Well, it's WWE in the Triple H era. I don't think things are ever as clear as they seem, because I'm going to give you a couple different theories as to what could be going on here, and one of them is simply a straightforward thing, right? One of them is just as simple as to say, hey, here's your visual to end this week's Raw. Breakker destroyed Rollins, Reed destroyed Rollins, Heyman has chosen his sides here, again, maybe out of fear more than anything else, but Heyman sees Breakker and Reed as the vision for the future, just has been the whole entire theme. And that may be that. They may have just simply made this turn because, well, in storyline, there's a lot of sense to it. Seth Rollins opened up this particular show by celebrating his win over Cody and also celebrating the fact that he's never needed anyone. Rollins flat out said it. He's not needed anyone to achieve the type of success that he's achieved in WWE. But he added the tiny little detail that, well, while he hasn't needed anyone, he doesn't need Heyman or Reed or Breakker, he chose them as part of his vision for the future. And so they had that little start, and you could tell all three men were kind of giving Rollins a bit of an interesting glare as he said that, and making you wonder, well, hold on a second. Why is he saying this now, right? So they set in motion the idea that, well, if this turn was going to happen, Rollins himself said it. He said something that would be the basis for Reed and Breakker and Heyman doing exactly what they did to end the show. And some people are going to say that maybe was a little too obvious, right? That the fact is they did that to start the show. Basically, it kind of came out of nowhere with Rollins saying that he's basically done it all by himself and he hasn't needed anyone else and all this other stuff. So that was a little bit of a, unique twist there, I think, off the beginning of the show, because it did sort of change the way we were thinking heading into it, right? Where it seemed like these guys were completely aligned. Rollins is happier than ever after beating Cody, finally getting the monkey off his back there. He finally gets a win over Cody Rhodes. But he throws in that little line there about never sort of needing them and all these things. So there's your obvious choice, I think, if you're saying, all right, let's say this is a pretty straightforward turn. Here's the reason why. You've got all you need there, because Breakker sees himself as the future. Reed just came off of a shocking upset win over Roman Reigns, and Heyman is, well, Paul Heyman, right? Paul Heyman will do anything for his own personal gain. So if that means turning on Rollins today, yesterday, or 6 weeks from now, Paul Heyman would do it. So that's pretty simple. Now, there are some other possible theories in play here, and I've seen people throw out this idea that, well, what if this isn't just simply a turn, right? To where WWE led us down this path on this one particular show that you could have taken the first segment and the last segment and tied them together and said, sure, I could completely understand why they made the turn. The other one that's being debated out there, and remember, WWE themselves are the reason why this potential theory is being debated, because they are the ones who set the precedent for this being a possibility. The ruse of the century took place back in July when Seth Rollins faked the injury to lose to LA Knight, to then come back on crutches and shockingly cash in on CM Punk at SummerSlam after Punk beat Gunther, and it was Rollins walking away with the World Heavyweight Championship. They pushed the whole tagline, the ruse of the century, and we said going into it, there had been the reports out there, the rumors were that this could actually be a possibility. Everybody was split. Real injury, fake injury, all this stuff, right? Well, we know how it played out. Turns out it was a ruse, and WWE had kind of capitalized on the idea that for Seth Rollins to cash in a second time, it had to somehow top the first one he did way back when on Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. And well, some would say it did, right? Because it came out of nowhere. Had you not sort of bought into the reports out there that this was all a story that was set in motion, that was going to be something that you could buy into, right? Well, if we fast forward now and we see that Rollins has gone to the depths, story-wise, of being someone who is willing to fake an injury to put himself in an advantageous position against his biggest rival ever, potentially, CM Punk, could you also push the idea that Rollins would do the exact same thing again in what is going to be a match against CM Punk? Could he have his own group turn on him in front of the entire world and then put Punk into a situation where Punk is thinking, okay, well now it's not CM Punk versus the Vision. It's CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. And what is Seth Rollins without the Vision, right? So what happens? Just like it happened in SummerSlam, Punk lets his guard down. He doesn't think he has to worry about anything else but his opponent. And then, well, we all know what happened from there. Now, I'm telling you, I don't want to buy into this being a possibility. That was one thing to fake an injury. Wrestling heels in the past have faked injuries, right? Now, to have your entire group turn on you, and really for it all to play out in a storyline way that we just said would make a ton of sense. If you think about Bron Breakker's aspirations, Bronson Reed's aspirations, and of course when you think about the mastermind that is Paul Heyman, the Oracle. So to have them orchestrate this entire plan to take out Rollins would be something, right? It's something we could believe based on what this group did a few months ago. But is this actually the plan? Well, I don't know. Again, this is why we're doing this video, because these are things that could be possibilities and possible explanations. The answer could be out by the time you watch this video that, hey, here's the reason why they did this, here's this rumor, here's this report, blah, blah, blah. But I'm just going to throw this one in as one that could be realistic if you connect a lot of dots together and realize that the precedent has been set by WWE and Rollins himself that they would go to these links to try to fool the audience and full CM Punk entering a high-stakes world championship match. Now, the third reason could simply be something else that was right in front of our eyes at Crown Jewel. When Seth Rollins did the coast-to-coast, going from one side of the ring to the other, to try to finish off Cody Rhodes, there were some people who looked at that and said, that was not exactly a good landing for Seth Rollins. And you can watch the replay and understand that, yeah, it didn't exactly look great. In the post-show, Rollins was asked by Peter Rosenberg and Big E. They both wanted to get in on the question about Rollins pulling out that move. And that's when Rollins went into what seemed like, just kind of a character-driven response, right? Saying that he told Cody he would do anything necessary to finally vanquish the demon that was Cody Rhodes in his mind, right? And that was one of the obvious choices for him was, hey, I have to do this move to take out Cody. But he also said it could be something that has long-term ramifications and that it was a rough landing. Long-term ramifications. So Rollins is kind of pushing that, hey, maybe it was something where it didn't look so great in the landing, and if we tie those things together, could Seth Rollins actually be injured? Not July Saturday Night's Main Event injured, but actually injured off of this move coming out of that match against Cody, and perhaps that would force WWE to speed up the timeline of the turn, and where they go from here, I have no idea if that's the case. If Rollins is actually out of the equation, then you could point out, well, what do they actually do? How are they going to get to the match with Punk? And why do the turn now? And also, why have Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed destroy the man if he has some kind of significant injury to his shoulder or elsewhere? So these are all questions you can tie in, but you could also, at the same time, if you want to support the theory that it could be a ruse, which I've seen a lot of people already run with online. This is what we do, right? We come up with all these different theories. You could say, well, Rollins himself is the one who brought up the fact that he could be, injured or something like that coming out of the match, and that could be a reason, also for the dogs to strike, the dog himself and Bron Breakker to strike. And again, you can use all these different things to tie the other one together in these explanations, but there will likely only be one. So what's the reason? Is it, like I said, as simple as storyline base, where it's kind of a power struggle? Heyman is now going to be in charge of Breakker and Reed. Breakker had had enough. He was tired of hearing Seth Rollins say that he could do this on his own because Bron Breakker is the next big thing, right? He wants to be the world champion. Or is it something where all these guys are in on this again and they are going to pull another one over on everyone, CM Punk included, to show you that they will do legitimately anything they have to do to fool everyone and make sure that they are still the ones with all the power? Or is Seth Rollins injured? And is he going to be out of action? Could they be, in a situation where Punk wins the title and then you're headed towards CM Punk versus Bron Breakker in some combination as the next title picture? And what could that mean for Bronson Reed and Paul Heyman and all these different questions coming out of this? It's a fascinating setup because, again, this was a shocking turn that not a lot of people were expecting to happen now. It was all about the timing, not the turn itself. It was the timing. Why now? And because it happened now, right after Crown Jewel, to really throw off what we thought was going to be clear as day going into Survivor Series, the Vision versus a combination of Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Jey Uso, and either Jimmy Uso, LA Knight, whoever. It seemed pretty clear that was going to be the case. But not the case anymore, because now we got to sort this whole thing out with where we go from here with the Vision and Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker and Bronson Reed and Paul Heyman. What is next? You guys let me know your predictions for why WWE decided to make this turn now. And are you buying it? Or are you someone who thinks this could actually be part of another huge storyline swerve to perhaps throw CM Punk off the scent heading into another World Heavyweight Championship opportunity? Because Rollins himself did stand over Punk and say, you will never be the world champion ever. So now it tells you it's never going to happen, right? Even though he was for a few seconds at SummerSlam. Let me know your predictions. Always enjoy your feedback. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button as well. And let me know your theory as to why the Vision turned on Seth Rollins.